Everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content channel as of late. We are off to work, as you can tell. Just getting ready for work early in the morning right now. It's a Saturday. Yeah, I work on the weekends. Beach is up and running. Swell is up, so it's been a pretty active few days. But I wanted to re-record this because I had already recorded this earlier this week, literally wearing the same my work uniform. The last time I recorded this was like last Saturday. So I just wanted to re-record it just because I think that now it's a little bit more timely with the release of Joker 2. Joker Folie à Deux, which by the time you see this video, I've already published my review on it, so you will know my thoughts on Joker 2 by the time this video comes out. But I want to kind of give my 2 cents on the measure of box office, because it's a little ambiguous as to the terminology and ultimately what is measured and deemed successful and what is considered a failure. So I just kind of want to simplify my thoughts a little bit, because the last video I kind of went on a little bit longer than I wanted to. So here's my view on it. So I think it's pretty cut and dry, at least if you've watched any of my other videos, just how I've measured films in the past. Typically I used to go with the 3 times ratio always, and the 3 times ratio still stands as that is the mark of true success. That's where you've really have turned a profit, and the rest is just towards any other fundings for maybe they follow up or whatever have you. It's a measure of really, really good success. And the 2.5 ratio, of which I don't usually bring up, is typically for films that just do fine. Films that just usually do enough to wash its face with. So that's usually the regular chatter that you'll find online about box office, and for the most part that is true. I don't think anyone there's people that still go by the just the solid 2 times ratio, but we live in different times now. The economy is not as sustainable as it used to be, because the pandemic, of course, affected things, and largely to do with the awareness of the streaming platform. Because of that time, the theatrical experience needs more to sustain itself, and also the studios in turn need to find stronger profits than what the old standards might have been. So this is the reason why theaters are looking to expand their offerings to pickleball and stuff like that, which we've talked about, which I think is ridiculous. Goes against the whole point of a theatrical experience when you're basically turning into a theme park, But it's to say that it's to illustrate that people are not coming to the theater as often as they used to, and they have to find different avenues, different sources of revenue to sustain their living, keeping the lights on. And the same goes for the studios, for the profit that they make in the theater. And with that, the standards have to be increased, and they can't be relying upon the old standards, because that's just no longer profitable. So for instance, and this is how I now measure it from now, because before it would just be 3 times unanimously, and I would argue that you can measure it that way, because like I said, the 3 times ratio is the best that you can do. So if you're measuring just quite literally just how in turn it should do, it should hopefully do 3 times its budget, or 3 times of the investment that you're given to online research, because there's other factors that people don't consider when it comes to to box office. I mean, they only consider the budget that's provided, the production cost, essentially. They don't think about marketing. They don't think about all these other looming factors that contribute to that and make it so that the studio needs to make more money. For instance, Deadpool and Wolverine, that was a $200 million production cost, but the marketing cost $100 million. So in turn, it's a $300 million investment all around. And in that, it had to make at least $1 billion, and thankfully it did, and it can justify its investment. In the case of something like Joker, it's probably a similar boat where it's the production cost was $200 million, which was I think idiotic, but it is what it is, and probably marketing is close to that. So so you're looking at something that also has to potentially do at least $1 billion, and as far as the numbers are concerned, that doesn't seem to be the case. So and we talked about that before, with how studios, coming into 2025 and 2026, I think that there needs to be a new rein in, a new emphasis on budgetary restraint, and not living by that old motto that spending more is going to get you more, because obviously nowadays that just doesn't mean anything. That doesn't really mean anything, or doesn't really add up, and it quite literally doesn't add up. So so I think that those old philosophies kind of need to be done with, and we need to go back to more restraint, because people are not coming into the theater as much, so you have to match that by spending less so that you can achieve better profits and better overall investments. To you got to go with the audience literally on this one, and less people are coming, but the way that I measure it might be a little bit narrow-minded, but I think it has some levity or some validity to it, which is simply this: if a film is costing double digits, if we're just strictly talking about production cost, because typically that's the only information that we know of, but depending on notability, IPs, anything noteworthy, of course, if it is on record a production cost of like 60 million, but we're talking about a very notable IP from, say, like DC or Marvel, anything like that, obviously that whole investment is going to be a little bit more expensive, because you're having to consider the marketing that potentially went into it. But let's just say that as an example, like just a standard 60 million, not notable, but just a regular film that costs $60 million. I would say that on just the basics, that should do at least 2.5, because what you're talking about is a much smaller investment, so in turn, it doesn't have to do as largely to justify its cost. So I think a 2.5 ratio is usually what I would apply when I see a budget that's of a double-digit range, because as I said, it doesn't have to do as well. But again, there's other looming factors that you have to consider. Like I said, notability, the type of franchises that are, that may occupy a budget like that. There's other looming factors that you have to consider. But on the other side of that, if it's like a triple-digit budget, that's where I would apply the 3 times ratio, because again, the cost is now increased, so now the overall return on investment also increases as well. So the more you spend, the more you have to make back. It's like it's like a credit card. Like the more that you use of it, the more you got to pay back. So if you use $200 that month on the credit card, that's how much you got to pay back. So but in this case, there's like I said, other factors that have to be considered, and also it's double, just on just the regular norms even back then, it's double the budget. That's the regular standard of how much a film typically has to do. But So my credit card, my credit card metaphor, that probably didn't work. But the point is, when it comes to double digits, I would say that 2.5 is where I would measure it. If we're just strictly talking about the production cost, that's where I would go with that. And if it's a triple digit budget, I would then apply a 3 times ratio to that. But normally speaking, films should do at least 3 times. That's usually where it should be today. That's typically where you're hitting the higher successes, turning in larger profits, and justifying those costs even further when you're meeting those ratios. When you're just meeting the 2 ratio nowadays, it's not enough. You have to do a little bit more, as I have illustrated, because of just that financially where studios are at right now, and with the theatrical experience kind of waning a little bit. There has to be more profits that need to be made, and I think that the solutions have always been there. It's hopefully when we get to 2025, 2026, they start to studios start to implement these solutions with like lowering the cost of production, and recognizing the limitations they have with audiences now. Well, audiences are very, very picky, a very, very fickle bunch, nowadays, so like even something like even Joker, you can see that probably in another time would probably do really well. People are, have become a lot more cynical, in the past few years, and it's for better or for worse, it's just people are just a lot more selective, and reception also plays into that as well. So, but ultimately, I would say that if a film is double digit, I would say apply 2.5. If it's triple, it does triple. That would be the base for both those scenarios for me. So, but typically films should be doing at least, no, bare minimum 2.5, but to really call it a success, I would say it has to do 3 times. So if we're talking about today is, economy and financial, financial area, I say that that's where it needs to be. 2 times no longer applies to that, because like the difference is that in 2019 or 2018, studios can afford a 2 times ratio, because they have a lot of other successes and a lot of other profits coming in, so they can go for a 2 times ratio, and that's no problem. Not the same as now, because of the looming factor of streaming, which that's been on the studios. That's their fault for doing that, for introducing that during the pandemic, and they got to be able to fight that somehow. I think lowering the cost is ultimately the solution, but in lowering the cost of that, there's also a higher demand for things to do generally better. So, but lowering the cost will definitely help in making that hill not as high or as steep, but generally things are needing to do better, because things are just generally not better. Things are on a decline, so things have to do better than the normal standard to be considered a worthwhile investment. So, but yeah, but those are my thoughts. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you guys consider 2.5 ratio, 3 times ratio? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on that? I hope my thoughts were made clear. Again, it's just early in the morning. I'm just getting into work right now. But let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.